One question I get asked a lot when I show people my list of watched anime is why so much romance anime, and whenever someone asks me for an anime recommendation, I usually end up jumping straight to a romance, or when the new seasonal shows come around, I'm looking to see what romance anime they're bringing in. Out of the 150 plus anime I've watched, a good third of it is romance. And I don't mean shows like Dandadan or Sword Art Online where the romance is a subplot, but shows like Love is War or Horimiya where the romance is the main plot and what the story centers around. Honestly, before today, I'd never really put any thought into why I watch so much romance anime like the question I mentioned before asks. So, in this video, I want to explain exactly why I love watching this genre so much and use it to share some of my personal favorites that help shape my love for it. Sorry for all the love puns, it just comes naturally. First, let me set up some context for you. Ever since I was a kid, I've enjoyed stories that had romance in them, mainly your typical knight saves the princess types that you'd see in Disney movies or playing games like Mario and Zelda, and I was even pretty heavily invested in the story of Anakin and Padme, although I guess I didn't truly understand the tragedy part until I was older. When I think back to the core movies I liked that had these themes, I always go back to Beauty and the Beast and Tangled, you know, when Disney movies used to be good, and I would watch these movies on repeat with my mom and usually picture myself being like Flynn Rider and saving my dream girl from a bunch of evildoers, which still hasn't happened yet, but I've still got time. And as I alluded to, I started playing more video games as I got older and found these same romantic themes in said games. Things like Mario having to save Peach or how Link and Zelda's relationship develops in Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild. At this point, I had started getting into anime through Dragon Ball and My Hero Academia, and I thoroughly enjoyed the romance aspect of Sword Art Online, the only part I really enjoyed, and I felt like it was time to broaden my horizons since all the people I watched online kept talking about how good these different romance anime were. So, what was the lucky show that started it all for me? No, that can't be right. There's no way that's the first one. I guess it is. My first ever romance anime was Domestic Girlfriend, which, let me preface by saying this isn't a show I think anyone should watch. It's a truly terrible show in both premise and quality. That being said, I did end up watching it with one of my best friends, and we just kind of laughed at it the whole time. I think the funniest aspect of the show was just us enjoying it together, not even anything that was actually happening. From there, I decided to move on to greener pastures as I had seen the boundless depths of terrible romance anime, so surely it couldn't get any worse. You have got to be kidding me. Most of this is scripted, including this sentence, but I was not prepared to remind myself that my first two romance anime were Domestic Girlfriend and Rent-a-Girlfriend. You legitimately cannot make this up. Rent-a-Girlfriend isn't as bad as Domestic Girlfriend, but it certainly isn't any better. The premise is somewhat interesting, but Kazuya as the protagonist ruins the whole series, and I'd honestly rather watch a show about Chizuru trying to become an actress because she's the only truly interesting character. I gave this an 8 on Mal? Okay, you know what? I understand why we call people tourists now and try to gatekeep anime, because this is unacceptable. Anyway, it was after seeing the bottom of the barrel with these two shows that I actually started watching some decent ones. I'd gotten a taste of what I didn't like, so I started course correcting from there. Fast forward a bit, and now we're at the present, where I've watched a ton more romance anime, including more bad ones. Which brings me back to the question asked earlier, why do I watch so much romance anime? My answer is honestly quite simple. I'm a sucker for a good romance story, anime or not, and it just happens that I've found a lot of these stories in anime, and there are a lot of good ones to find. You may have been able to tell by now, but I'm somewhat of a hopeless romantic, which is what feeds my enjoyment of these anime. I love getting lost in the plot of these two characters who are slowly falling in love, trying to get to know each other better, and just want to be together. It's a type of anime that I find relatable, which I know isn't the case for everyone. There are plenty of cases where I recommend a romance anime to someone only for them to tell me that they won't watch it because it'll make them depressed. And for the longest time, I didn't understand why. Until about a year ago when I had a brief moment while watching The Dangers in My Heart where I thought, yeah, I'm gonna be alone forever. But it was after this that I realized why those people don't like romance anime. It's the same reason why I have a hard time getting into seinen series like Berserk or Vinland Saga. Those series aren't inherently bad, it's just not what I get enjoyment out of watching or anything I can relate to. That said, even when I have those downer moments, I always bounce back and my boundless optimism takes over, giving a firm reminder to keep my head up, work on myself, and focus on the positives. And it's this optimism combined with my hopeless romanticism that lets me enjoy watching so many different shows. Some of which I've watched multiple times, like Bunny Girl Senpai, a series that has easily one of the best romance arcs, and it's contained in 3 episodes, but even after that, it still continues strong. The relationship between Mai and Sakuta will always be my favorite because it's so genuine. They both care for each other so immensely, Sakuta doing everything he can to try and help Mai not fade away, all through his own self-sacrificial love for her, and then Mai, in turn, helps ease the burden he's been carrying on his own for so long. She isn't just a girlfriend, but a helper and companion to Sakuta, being someone he can confide in, helping with his sister Kaede, or just cooking food for him so there's one less thing to worry about when he gets home. And they stay loyal to each other and have a deep level of trust. When Mai is off on film shoots, Sakuta's never worried about her since he knows she's working and wouldn't let herself get distracted or do anything to betray his trust. The same goes for him. Mai knows that whenever she's gone, Sakuta won't be disloyal or cheat on her, even when he's around Ryo or Tomoe, because he truly loves and cares for her. I think those kind of things are another reason I personally started gravitating more towards romance anime, since those types of relationships aren't ones I see in American media anymore. Whenever a series has some sort of romantic relationship, it's either driven by an intensely sexual desire or involves a lot of manipulation and dishonesty. I haven't seen a good American-made rom-com in a while, mainly because it feels like our media has sold itself out to degeneracy for the sake of maybe making a few extra bucks, and even when a new American romance movie comes out, it really just looks and feels like softcore porn with the director's poorly disguised fetish slipped in. Now, I'm by no means saying romance anime is perfect in this regard either. There are a lot of romance anime out there that exist for the sole purpose of fan service and nothing else. But those aren't the shows that I'm talking about. Romance anime, by and large, tends to have a more wholesome tone and promotes good, healthy relationships and encourages its viewers to find the same in their own lives. And that's how media should be. Rather than promoting bad behavior and setting that as the standard, it should be uplifting and showing you that you can do better. One of my personal favorites that I don't feel gets enough love is Shikimori's Not Just a Cutie, who's also a big part of the thumbnail for this video. Usually, a romance anime centers around our 2 leads trying to get together and that's where it ends, but Shikimori starts with our 2 leads already together and then builds from there, which I greatly appreciated. The series also uses that to give a slight air of mystery as to how a guy like Izumi ended up with a girl like Shikimori. Izumi is a pretty normal dude, except for the fact that he just has the worst luck known to man and cannot do anything right. Thus, he relies on Shikimori quite a bit to help him make it through the day, and she does this with no complaint or grumbling because she'll happily keep him safe since she loves and cares about him. Despite his constant bad luck and things always going wrong, Izumi remains optimistic and keeps a generally positive outlook on life. He's a kind-hearted guy who sees the best in everyone and for who they truly are beneath the surface, which is exactly how he sees Shikimori, someone who was always seen as just the cute girl at school and not much else. She spent so much time trying to fit in and conform to what she thought the world wanted her to be, even if it meant rejecting her own natural gifts and talents. But then along came Izumi, someone who was never scared or freaked out by her, but genuinely awestruck and loved her for who she truly was. I think there's something special about seeing characters build a relationship together. Not that there's anything wrong with the crush phase, it's just a nice change of pace to keep things fresh. Shikimori and Izumi still have that early relationship awkwardness that's gotta be worked through, but seeing them grow and mature over the course of the series is truly a treat. Much like that change of pace, there are plenty of subgenres and types of romance anime too. The majority of them take place in high school, which makes sense given the target demographic, but occasionally you'll get some that break outside that mold. Some jump into a bit of a higher age group like A Sign of Affection, Wotakoi, or The Ice Guy and his cool female colleague that are all centered around adult relationships, and some will even add supernatural elements to it like My Happy Marriage, which was a very interesting series that I watched last year. And that is yet another reason why I watch romance anime. Kind of the same reason I watch anime in general. There's so many different series to choose from, and even though a majority of them are in high school, there's always a unique premise or twist to keep things interesting. But maybe you don't want a special twist, and that's okay too. Romance anime, at least for me, is a more chill and laid-back watching experience. You know, something I can turn on after a long day, or to just give me a break from the myriad of action shows I'm watching. Like I said earlier, during any given season, I've got some new romance anime on in the background. With all that being said, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the series that solidified my love for the genre, and that's Kaguya-sama: Love is War. I'll be honest with you, I didn't like this series the first time around. I gave it the old 3-episode test, didn't think it was that good, and then promptly dropped it and moved on to the next one. But when the third season came out, I saw people hyping it up and I wanted to know why, so I gave the series a second chance, and something about it this time clicked. The whole show was just incredibly written, and I felt like I'd been thrust back into my high school days again. It was a high school romance like all the others, but Kaguya and Shirogane had this tense will they won't they dynamic going on, and turning every encounter into a battle based on the saying all's fair in love and war was genius. The supporting cast was incredible too. Chika plays off Kaguya well, and I personally relate to Ishigami on a lot of different levels, and having a fully fleshed out side cast with their own stories, character arcs, and big moments felt so foreign in a genre where it's so easy to just focus on the main two. At the core of the series is the theme of pride and how it can cause so much undue stress and drama if you let it control your life. Some people are just too prideful to admit their feelings, and that can cause strain on your relationships. You should always have a level of humility, especially with the people that you care about most. Kaguya herself is the pinnacle of this theme, someone who was raised to be prideful in her family and her status that she was born with, but then learning to humble herself by being around Shirogane, who built himself up from virtually nothing and can now stand on her level. But Shirogane struggles with his own pride issues too, being a chronic overworker who can't rest until everything is done perfectly because his pride wouldn't allow it. He has to learn that it's okay to entrust things to others, especially those who are committed to helping him like Ishigami, Chika, and of course, Kaguya. A lot of growth can happen when you put two people with massive amounts of pride in the same room and not only force them to work together, but have them fall in love too. And seeing how their relationship grows and changes over the course of the series is very satisfying, especially as someone who's now finished the manga. Love is War also falls into that category of right place, right time for me, since I watched the series during one of the most stressful and tumultuous times of my life, and having a fun and wholesome place to escape to, even if just for a 20-minute episode, went a long way in helping me through that time, and is also what got me to watch even more romance anime. In summary, I love watching romance anime because I'm an optimistically hopeless romantic who enjoys the more wholesome aspects of life and seeing how that plays out in a romantic setting. I like the peace and comfort it can bring after a long day of work, or if I just need a break from the action. Maybe you're like me, a fellow romance anime enjoyer, or you're like the people I mentioned earlier who just couldn't get into it. If you're the former, pleasure to see you, but if you're the latter and you've made it all the way through this video, 1, I hope you enjoyed it, and 2, I would highly encourage you to give romance anime another shot. There are so many incredible stories for you to enjoy, even if it's not your go-to genre. Aside from the main 3 I mentioned in this video, I've got a couple more good recommendations for you to start with that I think are pretty easy to get into. Fruits Basket is a very solid series that honestly starts out as more of just a slice of life than a romance, but once the romance kicks in, it gets even better, and it's also a complete story in the 3 seasons of the anime, so you don't have to worry about picking up the manga to see how it ends. I won't spoil anything, but Fruits Basket does have one of my favorite couples in it, and you'll understand why once you watch it. The Dangers in My Heart is a High Dive exclusive, which kinda sucks, but I still think it's worth it. Ichikawa is a true champion for us short kings by showing us that by being yourself, you can still get the girl. Height is of no object. It's also just a very wholesome story of overcoming your own insecurities and being confident in yourself, which is something I'm sure a lot of people, myself included, can relate to. And last but not least is The Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten, another series with a very questionable title but shockingly wholesome plot. Amane struggles a lot with his self-worth and whether or not he deserves love, something that Mahiru helps him through over the course of the series. There's also little to no fan service, which is very rare for a romance anime, and I appreciate that so much. I wholeheartedly recommend those and any of the others I mentioned in this video, with the exception of Domestic Girlfriend and Rent-A-Girlfriend, and FYI, those were really only in this video for the sake of story, providing context, comedy, and nothing else. If you've made it this far, first of all, thank you. I'm still kind of new to this whole deep dive video essay thing, so I'm glad you found it enjoyable enough to watch all the way through. Secondly, go down in the comments and drop your favorite romance anime, one you think I should watch, or both. I always look forward to reading them all, and maybe even getting some new anime recommendations. While you're down there, you can subscribe so I know to do more videos like this, since I have had a lot of fun making it, and it's something I've wanted to talk about for a while. And as always, a huge shout out to all the channel members this month. Your support means the world to me and helps me continue to make great content like this. If you want to watch more, you can check out one of the two videos on screen, one being my tier list of every romance anime I've seen, and the other being what the YouTube algorithm thinks you'll like. So I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.